Roll call.
Mike Dolson,
I am here.
Tom McDonald,
Here.
Jennifer Finley, Jim Molitaire, Carol Langford, Danielle Matt, here, Bing Matt, James Steele Jr.,
Una.
Martin Charlo,
Present.
Len Tootie, Lenise Trahan. Here.
Thank you, Jennifer. Martin, would you give us a prayer this morning, please?
Today I pray for all our friends, all our enemies, and everyone in between. Limits.
Thank you, Martin. We have minutes. What day is it?
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, James, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I made one correction way at the end. I emailed that to Abby just now on page 11 of 12 in the middle. Made a motion. I just took the name out, put a tribal member.
Thank you, James.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a clarification on the first page, referencing my comment, Tom McDonald, Farm Council, that the gift giving, promoting solar panel, that sentence, it should read, inform council that a gift that keeps giving is promoting solar panels in tribal members' households. And then the last sentence in that one would that is another grant we can partner with our tribal funding, period, and delete the low cost bankroll comment. And then later on in the minutes, referencing the Bison Summit, when I edit Colorado to Colorado, just a misspelling. And then the last, somewhere in the end, I can't remember, where was it? Was talking about the jobs with Greg Montier. Last sentence in the paragraph of Greg Montier. Like to edit, we would like to have a collage of all of the various seasonal jobs with tribal programs developed. So it's really a one-stop shopping where people could see where all the seasonal jobs are, whether it's fish filleters or a forestry tech or a firefighter or working at the meat processing plant or working at the farm to market or a farm we might develop. So that's what that sentence was. Thank you.
Chair.
Go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Council. Abby, on page 4, I don't know where I want to, maybe at the end. Maybe it's just for the record, actually, that I was very disappointed in everyone involved with the grant, its writing, lack of on-time approval, lack of a resolution, and actually a lack of a proof resolution or letter of support, and that policy needs to be followed, and everything needs to be run through contracts and grants prior to submission for their policy and our own policy. Thank you.
Abby, where on page 2, where I informed council, we received notice that the Army Corps of Engineers for the Western Division has a new leader that is Brigadier General William C. Hannan, Hannan, Jr. Morning, Jennifer.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Martin to approve the minutes from November 26th. Was it? The amendments? 26, November 26th. Second by Tom. All in favor?
Yeah, question, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
On page 11 of 12, I've kind of, the part where we had the drawing for hay, do we need a little more clarification there or not? We just say we're having names drawn for hay. Is there a little more clarification that should be added? Just, yeah, we just come in here with names drawn for hay, and then we didn't say,
Can we just say the names were drawn for hay and leave it at that without all the names?
From
Well-
Land's advertisement.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, just to, the names are
Context.
drawn for hay based on Land's advertisement for hay or something. Yeah, request for bid.
That's just that bale of hay I brought in here.
Yeah. The names are fine, I think. It's just adding a little more clarity as to why we're doing that. Where's this hay at?
Well, I wouldn't want the misunderstanding that everybody that's name is listed might be getting hay.
No, why my name was there. I didn't want no hay. It says Jennifer Trahan. I didn't bid for no hay, and in the minutes, my name is on there. But I'll take it if I get some hay. So I don't know
Hay,
whose name
huh?
it's supposed to be.
So
They said your name, yeah.
They did,
they did,
they did.
yeah. So I think we need to, yeah, we need to do something different with that. Yeah, cause like you're saying, not all of them are gonna get hay.
It could go to the very last person if everybody else gave up
Yeah,
their,
go through yeah, so
but just the names
maybe the names are
were-
drawn for hay that were
that land.
advertised, that the lands department had advertised.
Except for, was there bids? Well, I don't think there was bids, was there?
No.
So it's just advertised. Names,
What would we want to?
Was a drawing for the advertised price.
What would we recommend to Abby to put in there?
the names were drawn for the hay that lands advertised at the price of $150 per ton. And stop there,
Yeah, I think that would be good.
and then just leave the names off.
Does that make sense, Abby? I think that, anyway, thank you for letting me, it's been rolling around my head since I looked at that earlier.
And again, to just recount the vote, all in favor? We're unanimous. We do have an agenda for today. We have a motion to approve today's agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda? Motion by Jimmy, second by Martin to approve the agenda. All in favor? Unanimous. No walk-ins. So we're ready for Joe Derglow, and we're way ahead. Who all's going to Helena tomorrow? Danielle, Jennifer, what? Going to Helena tomorrow for the Jimmy? 1, 2, 3. You're going, James going to Helena?
Gonna promise the fog lifts.
And no promises, no way, no how. Jay Blue said to go to Helena, we need to fill out basically a day trip. And he's got those, and I had some in my office, so we'll get those. Just a matter of writing your name down and where you're leaving from, and you're headed to Helena. Not on base, just for a day trip, just for mileage. No expectation of staying at hotels, any of that stuff. Oh. Yeah. 3, 4, 5.
I'm getting Shane on because I think there's an event tonight. Hey, Shane, can you log on to Zoom? They wanted to ask you a couple questions about tonight and tomorrow's.
And then Jay Blue is wondering how many day planners to order. Who all wants a day planner for the coming year? Yeah. Morning, Shane. Jennifer said there might be something happening in Helena tonight.
Shane, if you're on your phone, remember it's *6 to be able to talk.
There we go. Okay. So what did you say was going on tonight, Jennifer?
It was Carol. Carol's gonna reply. She's the one that said it.
I mean, the governor's wife's book selling, I don't know, it was kind of the same thing last year. If you go online and you pull up the gala, well, tonight there's something in Helena at the Civic Center like it was last year. And then on Friday is the other gala in Bozeman.
Oh, I think the Helena one is actually a
That's one
later
of her,
day. Let me pull it up.
that's one of her projects that she does as a first lady. And I thought that was a part of the thing we went to last year.
Okay, so I have the one that the other event in Helena is on January 14th, but maybe
Oh,
there is something
there's something
January
tonight.
14th is the okay, well let me look into that, Carol, and I'll get back to you here in the next hour or so,
Yeah, because I thought it
if
was
that's
tonight
okay.
at 5:30, and I thought, well, if Jimmy and me wanted to go, we could go to that and then just go to the meeting tomorrow. But if not, it's fine. But I'll
Yeah,
push it till
let me
Friday.
figure that out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I
Thank
wasn't
you.
aware wasn't aware of something tonight, but I will double check and get back to
I
you
can find
ASAP.
it. I'll send it to you too. Okay, thank you. Did you
All right,
find it?
sounds good.
Shane,
Yeah,
it's the welcome
yep.
reception, January 14th. So I think you have it backwards, Carol.
Oh, I do? Okay. Won't be the first time.
Okay, we're all good then.
Shane, did you need a head count for who's going tomorrow?
Maybe around
I think we got a head count, but Melissa and Daniel are going to check in and kind of update you guys a little bit more we're on with you here in a minute.
Okay, we didn't have no walk-ins, so we might be early today, so I'm gonna let Dan and
Okay.
them know as well.
Okay, I sent them the link to Jennifer just to give them a heads up.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
oh, is this for
You don't.
tomorrow?
You got Joe coming on?
Joe's at jury duty, so
he?
it's gonna be Dr. Fox, so I'm trying to get Dr. Fox on. But I know Greg had an issue that he needed. I'm gonna try and get him in here as well.
Okay.
So it'll be just a second.
Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of council. Good morning, all. So I'm here today on two issues. They're both water compact related matters. I'll wait for Jennifer to load them up so that you can all see them, but I'll give you the narrative, the narrative for your consideration. During the period of July 1st through September 30th, the tribes completed certain Section 7 activities related to water compact activities, and the letter, there's a letter and a resolution that simply acknowledges that amount. It's about $2.1 million worth of activities, and the request goes to Shane Hendrickson that says that the tribes have completed those $2.1 million worth of activities, and we're seeking reimbursement for those activities out of the water compact. So there's a letter to Shane Hendrickson for that amount. Then there's a follow-up resolution that authorizes the release of those funds from BTFA in order to reimburse the tribes for those activities according to the same activities that we've done in every quarter for the last fiscal year. The second resolution will be for the release of fiscal year 2025 planned activities under Section 8 of the Water Compact. Section 8 of the Water Compact principally deals with the doer activities, and the arrangement that we've had with BTFA is for them to use the approved budget for fiscal year 2025 and to release those funds in advance of the fiscal year. The planned 4601 or Section 8H activities for fiscal year 2025 represent about $7,100,000 worth of activities. So the resolutions you'll be seeing today is one asking BTFA to release for fiscal year 2025 roughly $7.1 million for the planned activities under Section 8, which the tribes have agreed to accomplish. And then the second resolution will be the request for reimbursement from the last quarter of the fiscal year in 2024 from July 1 through September 30th in the amount of roughly $2.1 million.
Go ahead, Tom.
Well, we'll go through time here. I make the motion to approve the resolution for the drawdown funds.
For the 7 million,
Yeah, whatever the reimbursement.
for Section 8 activity.
The drawdown is for fiscal year 2025, Section 8 activities, roughly $7.1 million.
So
I
motion
have
by
it.
Tom. Second by Danielle. Any questions? All in favor? Unanimous. And then, there's a letter and resolution with respect to Section 7's last quarter expenditures.
Yes, sir. The request for reimbursement.
Motion by Danielle. Second by Tom. All in favor? We're unanimous. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So trying to get a better understanding on how this works. And the reason why I question it is because we get 90 million every year, correct? And
Yes,
it's
sir.
like, so why are we requesting additional funding from another for these projects? And then the other question is there a list of projects that they'll be providing the council on what's expected to be done in 2025?
Mechanically speaking, sir, the money is distributed from the Treasury and is deposited into the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration accounts and is held at those locations in two segregated accounts. One is for compact activities and one would be for the settlement or the implementation settlement dollars. They're divided amongst them. At the beginning of the fiscal year, in August of last year, Dewar came to Dewar presented a budget for Section 7 activities and Section 8 activities that represented their, what I would call their big ask. Could they accomplish roughly $60 million worth of activities during the upcoming fiscal year? They may be planning on those. Dewar would be able to provide a report of what type of activities would be on their agenda or on their calendar of things that they could potentially complete, and those would be large dollar projects. The underlying activities, which is the payroll and some of the underlying activities, are described as Section 8 activities, which is the implementation of the water compact. It allows for there to be staffing in Dewar to do some of the planning and the implementation. It also provides some of the expenses for the legal coverage that's being used right now to defend some of the water compact activities. So there's costs and expenses, and those were estimated for this fiscal year at $7.1 million. So we go into the fiscal year with the budget that was approved in August, and BTFA has said they will release the planned expenses for Section 8 activities at the beginning of the fiscal year. That's what the $7.1 million is advanced money for those planned activities. Not for large things, not for pipe, not for concrete, not for the actual betterment and rehab and betterment, but for the ongoing implementation of the compact itself. We're asking for the money to come back to the tribe for certain Section 7 activities that were accomplished last quarter, because we're still pending the agreement that talks about how the money will come to the tribes through BAA drawdown through the, Mr. Chairman, what's the legislation that the Progress Act? So once the Progress Act details have been ironed out and agreed upon, then that will determine a different flow of funds for the actual projects that are being accomplished.
Other questions for Greg?
In regards to the 90 million that we receive every year, where exactly does that go and how much interest does that draw? And are we able to access that interest?
The most recent fiscal year 2025, $90 million was received at the tail end of November and has already been deposited into what's called the SKQ Trust, and it has already been divided between the compact and the settlement or implementation trust account. It's already been received and divided. The current interest rate on the overnighter, as of this morning, was about 4.35, 4.4%. So the current interest rate on liquid funds is that amount. We've been purchasing bonds in that portfolio, U.S. government treasury agency notes, bills, bonds, and notes throughout the course of the year. The average rate of interest that we've been receiving right now is somewhere between about 4.3 and 4.6% on that money. And any interest and any accumulation or any proceeds that accrue or accumulate within either of those accounts, the compact or the implementation account, must only be used on water compact agreed upon activities.
Okay. What bank does this SKQ account set in?
The Bureau of Trust Fund Administration is located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It is a investment portfolio that is divided amongst a handful of different investment houses. It is aggregated through BTFA, and it represents both the SQK top account, which is the conduit through which the funds flow based on the act, and the two compact accounts also sit at BTFA, and they're fully invested, with the exception of what we anticipate drawing out liquidity-wise on an annual or ongoing basis.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that, Greg. I appreciate that.
Anything else for Greg? Thank you, Greg.
Thank you all.
So you don't have Dr. Fox yet? Okay. Okay,
Go into executive.
we will go out of regular into executive.
Reporting in progress.
And welcome this morning.
Right, okay. Can you hear me? All right, good morning.
Yeah, so as you know, Joe's on jury duty and unable to be here, so has asked for Dr. Fox to come in and lead the conversation on the two resolutions. One of them is in discussion of purchase of the Logan Health Building across the street from St. Joe's Hospital. I believe Joe introduced that to council a couple of weeks ago, but there was no decision made by council on the purchase of that particular building. I'll turn it over to Dr. Fox, who can talk about that project and what the intended use of in that particular building as opposed to what's going to happen at the Flathead Lake Inn.
Yeah, so this building essentially is to expand our level 1 outpatient behavioral health services. This is a building that some of you all actually toured with us. The initial proposal was to lease this space, and the request from individuals at the time was to explore if we could purchase rather than lease. So that has been several months, but we have convinced Logan Health to consider a sale. And so we're reapproaching, so same project, expanding behavioral health services. I do kind of have a couple phase plan for the utilization of this space and for behavioral health services in general. But essentially right now we're on the 3rd floor of Tribal Health in Polson. And we're just far exceeding that space. We have several providers sharing offices, and we've had to limit our scheduling for Polson because we haven't had available office spaces. I know when I do clinical work in Polson, I have to see people out of the smudge room because there's not an office available. So what this does is just afford us ability to have more flexibility with scheduling, utilize more office spaces, and we would share this space with tribal care coordinators in Polson. And so we would still have TCC on site so we can have back and forth referral with them. And then the second phase of this plan is we would actually like to start moving into more intensive crisis intervention. So right now we currently provide on-call, 24-hour on-call to the tribal jail. We have MOAs in progress right now to be able to send our tribal health on-call individuals into the local hospitals. So I anticipate those will be hopefully passed in the next month or so. Both of the hospitals have drafts of those MOAs and their legal is just re-reviewing them. But what this does is we can create a receiving center. So individuals who are experiencing mental health crises, we would like to set this space up to be a drop-off center so police or families can bring their individuals to this center and have that evaluation done there rather than having to go into the tribal jail or the hospital. The location directly across from St. Joe's would afford us to be able to, if there is a medical need or medical emergency, we'll have that proximity to emergency services. So within this plan, we're thinking that we could probably get up and running probably closer to 2026 because of the project we're also taking on with the Flathead Lake Inn, where we're hoping to expand into level 2 services, which is intensive outpatient, which is 9 to 20 hours of service on site. I know that's a little complex, complicated, but that's kind of our multi-phase plan for behavioral health. And so this building is kind of the phase 1 and phase 3 of our overarching plan. But for me, I think being able to spread our team out a little bit and afford some privacy for the individuals that are coming in, and just being able to accommodate requests for behavioral health appointments for mental health and addiction would be very helpful.
And Dr. Fox, I think it might be helpful to also try to explain to council what is the difference between what's planned to happen for intensive outpatient at the former Flathead Lake Inn versus the building across from St. Joe's.
Yeah.
Before you go into that, Dr. Martin has.
So does the outpatient treatment, will that be aftercare or helping people transition out of treatment as well?
Yeah, so that would be inpatient treatment is a level 3, so 3.5, 3.7, and then level 4 is like the medical interventions. And so the level 3 is the residential level. And so that's where we send them to Royal Life. They go to MCDC. That's the inpatient. It's usually 30 days to 12 weeks, depending on the program. And then level 2 is either a step before you go into level 3 or it's the step down. So what we're seeing most often is people going to level 3, coming back, and we don't currently have a level 2. So we're either trying to make do with level 1 or they're going to other programs for the level 2 services. So we're looking to fill that gap of level 2 by having intensive outpatient on reservation. So when they're coming back from treatment, they're engaging in our programming and not Missoula, Kalispell, or I think Cedar Creek is probably the only one in this area that does level 2. So we're just looking to fill that gap with these services. Yep, so we want those services to occur at Flathead Lake Inn. We would be able to have a couple group rooms. Part of that proposal includes doing some co-occurring treatment, so not just addictions-based treatment, but mental health. And so being able to address the issues that are bringing people into the treatment system. A lot of times there is a lot of mental health going on at the same time. So bringing in those co-occurring treatment services. And then we also want to have cultural programming. So we have also proposed to hire a cultural coordinator who can bring in cultural activities. So each day that we have programming, there'll also be language and other activities like that people can engage with. Right now, that service is not reimbursable by insurance or by CMS. But as you probably know, some other states have moved towards that. So we're hoping to get those services online and started, and then in hopes in future years that will also be a reimbursable service. But until then, using grant funding to support being able to provide cultural service as part of our treatment plan.
Other questions? Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On a unrelated but related question, I had a call the other day from a top official with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and they currently work out of their home, but they have regional Western U.S. responsibilities for habitat protection and restoration for threatened and endangered species. And they're anticipating that they're going to have to work at an office under the next administration and not be allowed to work from home. And so they were looking for a office space to rent in Polson from the tribal government. And I mentioned, well, we're in the process of having 2 new facilities that the tribes would own. And then the Natural Resource Department has some other facilities. And between them, maybe there is a spot. We might be able to rent you an office, because he currently resides in Polson and works out of his home. If he doesn't find an office space in Polson, he'll have to drive all the way up to the nearest U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service office in the fish hatchery up in Big Fork, north of Big Fork, Kalispell. Anyway, they would pay a high rent for that. I don't know if there's a room at the Flathead Lake that would work for him, or at the Logan facility. But I want to throw that there's potential for other people to use the facilities. Just want to throw that out there now.
Yeah.
This gentleman is a very strong, large man, and I don't know if that helps to have someone like that in a building
We'll
with
double the
mentally
security.
disturbed people. I don't know, might be, but no, he's not. He's okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to throw that out. If there is any potential for that in your consideration of
Mhm.
use of the buildings,
Yeah.
there is a
that's
need
good
for
to
that,
know.
and even more of a need because they are going to backtrack on any work from home.
Mm. Yeah, that's great to know.
Go ahead, Danielle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick question, with these two new facilities, all of our communities suffer with people with mental health and addictions. And it seems like if they don't go in seeking that help, they're out there helpless. With this, and it sounds like more staff on board, is that gonna help your outreach to these members in our communities that are hurting not only themselves, but the communities because of lack of services? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I would hope so. We do only engage in voluntary services only. Like we know from research, forced services aren't helpful. If someone's dropping them off and making them be there, if they're not engaging, they're not getting much from the programming. But if they're coming willingly, we're hoping to develop a plan for transportation. Polson, I wasn't tied to Polson in any way, shape, or form. It's just where can we put this? And no matter where we put it, we're going to have to get people from surrounding communities there. So developing a plan for transportation, developing a plan for recruitment and engagement, and hoping to engage families. So when we do activities, if people are basically, we're trying to get people to connect more, connect to us, connect to culture, connect with their own families in order to help with their recovery journey. And so, hopefully with all of that and doing outreach into some of our surrounding communities, we can, build interest in coming and engaging in this program. And so that is the hope that, it's not just people in Polson and Pablo who are coming, but everyone from reservation wide and even off reservation if appropriate.
Thank you for the follow. Yeah, just some of our most in need won't ask for that help, and we watch them suffer on the streets daily, and it's beyond mental health, it's beyond the addiction, the homelessness, and that safety aspect for our people out there. And I think with two new facilities, one that has hotel space, I would hope that you guys can put an outreach coordinator in there, somebody who, along with hopefully our homelessness coordinator that we get soon, can actually physically go out in the communities and talk to people and offer the services. And go back up once a week. Don't give up after your first attempt, but really that outreach I think is important.
Absolutely, I agree.
Good, James.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think one of the things that I've experienced recently, sorry, visited a pretty interesting center over in Swinomish. Pretty unique, and it isn't a tribal health program. It's a completely separate entity from the tribes under a tribal corporate structure. And their motto is to improve outcomes with quality health care solutions by removing barriers to treatment. And you go in the building, that's on their wall, and it's not just words on the wall, it's actually practiced. And their whole motto, it's a culture of doing everything they possibly can to remove barriers, from sending people all over the reservation, which we do. Unintentionally, we created a barrier. You got to go, you check in at tribal health for, your intake, but then you got to go up here to see, KT for her part of it. Then you got to go here, then you got to go there. Oh, come back next week because we don't have we don't have anybody here, you know, these barriers that we create, just the way we operate. And I was part of that at Tribal Health as well. Well, I'm not there on this day, I'm on here this day or that day. But as soon as somebody walks in their door, they see them whether they have an appointment or not. They make every possible way to make sure that that person is seen. We don't send them away, well, fill out this paperwork and we'll get back to you. They see them, they engage with them. But they had to take this whole approach of, okay, the tribal health aspect, they still do what you're doing with their tribal health division, but they took their main effort and created a separate program, somewhat I think what we're trying to do with Red Shield, I believe, in Great Falls. Hopefully they have that same motto of anybody that comes in that door, they should be serving, and not just tribal members. At Swinomish, they said, look, we've got tribal members that are married to non-tribal members, and we're treating the tribal members. You can't leave out half of the family. So anyone that comes in the door, they see them. I know with the restriction of the tribal health and eligibility requirements and the IHS, all of that. So I really think we as a tribe need to be, even though we're supporting what they're doing at Red Shield, that absolutely. We've got to be more proactive. We aren't proactive in some regards because we stick with these silos and I get it. But when you physically go and see people's lives changed and somebody walks in the door and they're getting service as opposed to what we have currently where, and it's not a criticism of anyone at Tribal Health, it's just the way it is. We've got to collectively do something different. When you live with people, you know, in our families that talk about the discussion is, you know, I heard this last week 2 or 3 times, so-and-so they thought was overdosing. And so they applied Narcan to these folks, that person's alive. These aren't healthcare professionals administering Narcan. It's folks that are in addiction applying this. You know, and we had to have a discussion with the healthcare folks at St. Luke's. Why are you guys administering Narcan anyway? These people just come in the next day or the next week and we're treating them for the same thing. Well, you can't treat or help someone in addiction if they're dead. And at some point, you know, the tribal communities over there, they had 4 people die of an overdose in a week. And it grabbed that community in such a way to say, we need to quit. We need to quit disenrolling our members through overdose and death. And we need to have something like that is going to have to catch our attention for us to make some different changes. I absolutely support this 100%. And I think we have these efforts, but we need another effort on the outside that's able to treat everybody. Tribal members, non-tribal members, descendants, whomever. And the way they're paying for it is through Medicaid reimbursement, which they can do 4 interactions they can charge for. My understanding is we can only do 2 or 3, but I'm also understanding that we can negotiate that with the state, how many interactions we can pay for. So I support this effort, but I really encourage us as a tribal health and then behavioral health to be thinking of ways and doing ways outside the box, because I'm worn out of addiction. I'm worn out every payday. I'm being asked for money. I've had stuff stolen, and every one of us have that story as well in our communities and our families. Thankfully, my adopted son has lived through it and he's productive and working and everything. But I've driven people to the methadone clinic. We need to have something like that on the reservation. If tribal health can't do it, then let's figure out some other way to do it. Over at Swinomish, they spent $100,000, bought a RV, retrofitted it to be a mobile methadone clinic. We toured it. We have got to do something different because we have people that are leaving the reservation, going to Kalispell, going down to RCM in Missoula every day. And the big stigma with addiction is that we think, oh, well, they need to be on medication they're just an addict treating, pills with another pill. We don't say that about diabetes. We don't say that about heart medication. We don't say that about a friend of mine that has to take medication for severe seizures. But I really, really support your efforts, but I really think we need to be thinking outside the box. We have a serious problem, but it feels like we're just kind of tacitly engaging with it. And when I send folks that I know, I said, go to tribal health, engage with them. Well, I got put on an appointment for whenever, or so-and-so's not there, or whatever. It just gets, you're trying to help a tribal member, but yet our system isn't, and this isn't any criticism of you, Dr. Fox or Patricia. It's just my overall observation. We've got to do something different. When somebody is ready, you can't tell them come back next week. So sorry for my soapbox, council and staff, but I definitely support the effort. And I definitely think we need to take into consideration what Tom's talking about. That if we have federal folks that need an office, we've got buildings. Let's figure out where we can negotiate a rent with them. I think BIA is still paying us for downstairs over here, right? We need to raise the rent.
So Chair, if I can just jump in for a moment, I think what you're not aware of is a project that's coming. It's not part of the resolutions today. But Dr. Fox has been able to negotiate some carryover funds to actually create a mobile mental health clinic that will be out in the community and certainly interface with both the work that's going to happen at the former Flathead Lake Inn as the intensive outpatient clinic, and then also the mental health work that will happen at the building across from St. Joe's. So I know it's a little premature because we don't have the resolution for that today, Dr. Fox, but that might be good information to share with council also.
Yeah, and that's also paired with a project that we just got funding for to go to our reservation schools. Our schools don't always have space inside for us to come provide behavioral health services. But we were able to secure carryover so we can get a mobile mental health unit. So if we don't have space, we bring our space to them. And so being able to get into the school, provide mental health services, that was a project that we're also engaging with the Montana Healthcare Foundation. And Logan Health is actually going to be providing mobile medical services to 2 reservation schools. They're going to be working at Charlo and St. Ignatius, and they invited us to be a part of that project. So they will be doing mobile medical services, will be available for warm handoffs. But since that project is starting small and it will only be 2 schools, 2 days a week, we're planning to take our mobile mental health unit and go to 3 other schools for the 3 other days of the week. So we can provide mental health service directly to the students that need it. And, I'm really glad you're talking about possibly serving non-tribal healthcare recipients, because that's a question that has come up for the schools is, are we saying, oh, you're not a tribal healthcare recipient, we can't do, a mental health screening with you. Since this is initially funded by Montana Healthcare Foundation, we will be hiring a therapist using that funding so we can see all of the students in the school, and that'll be our opportunity to figure out billing for those, particularly for those individuals who don't have insurance, because this question is coming up for crisis response as well. It doesn't feel right to someone come to your doors and say, wait, what's your insurance? Are you a tribal healthcare recipient? Being able to say, let's get you connected to the service and then figure out the billing afterwards. So those are definitely on our mind of being able to serve whoever needs it and then figure out where to go from there and where their referral might go following that first point of contact. But so the mobile mental health unit, that resolution, I think is prepared and just not quite ready to go before you all yet. So we'll be back to talk about that a little bit more in depth, but if you have questions about that. And then another point that I didn't mention, but just with the questions that are coming up around evaluation and getting people in sooner, that is one of the project goals for the intensive outpatient, is being able to have same day turnaround for individuals who are seeking inpatient care and getting that determination of level of care same day. We'll likely have to start off with having 1 or 2 scheduled days per week. So like maybe a Tuesday, Thursday, something like that. But they're coming in, they're getting service that day, they're getting their level of care determination, and they're getting their care plan that same day instead of having to wait for scheduled appointments, wait for follow-up, all of that. So that is part of the work plan for the Flathead Lake In Space and that team, which is going to be a co-occurring team. So people who can address addiction and mental health simultaneously.
Mr. Chair.
Two quick resolutions, huh? I got Jennifer, then Carol, then back to James.
I was gonna say, we have tribal health on Thursday at 1 o'clock for the health committee. So, and that resolution to be brought up then, so that's all I just wanted to
Carol?
bring up.
I just want to say I appreciate James's soapbox, but I also have watched Dr. Fox in action, the thing that she's doing with the drug court or the healing court. And so I know we're making progress. And I guess my biggest worry now is wearing Dr. Fox out. Do you have enough staff? Are you going to be able to staff up in order to get you the assistance? Because I don't want to see you leave. I mean, seriously. You are a breath of fresh air and you're bringing in these new ideas, but you're also incorporating what you hear here.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have the staff that you need?
We have an expansion plan, and so we do have people kind of in the wings who have expressed interest in working with our teams, particularly with this expanded co-occurring program. We've been working on some internal growth of getting some of our providers who are individually licensed, duly licensed, and so we have some people that are slated to transition into this new program. We will have to hire a clinic director, someone who can kind of handle the day-to-day operations of this project. But there have been people reaching out, expressing interest in some of the growth and the changes that we're looking at making. And so I think kind of pairing that with some of these new spaces and these new work plans, we definitely do need to grow and bring on new providers. But I'm confident that there's enough excitement out there about this project that we can absolutely do that.
I guess the other question I have is if somebody does want to get a hold of you, is there somebody like you that I can say, call them? Because Dr. Fox is just totally busy. And if she doesn't get back to you, it's not intentional. It's because she's busy.
I now have a director's assistant, and that's Shanona Grief. And so any contact through me or our office managers, Elena Dumontier, they can collect information. If they can answer the question, they answer the question.
Okay.
But if it's something for me, they make sure it gets in front of me. And so that's a newer development, but that's been really, really helpful to have someone who kind of is able to collect that information and prioritize with me.
I would suggest if you feel like you need more, talk to Joe. I mean, we'll slap him around up here. He won't get you the help you need.
Thank you.
James?
I make a motion to approve the resolution.
The resolution to purchase the property?
Yep.
Got a Motion by James, second by Carol, to agree to purchase the property at 102 13th Avenue East, Olson. All in favor? Got unanimous with Jennifer out of the room. We do have a second resolution.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the third-party revenue allocation.
Motion by Tom to approve the third-party revenue allocation, second by Carol. All in favor? Unanimous. What else, Patty?
Just also wanted to let you know, we're going to be having conversations with a consulting group called Indigenous Pact. And Indigenous Pact is a consulting group that really comes in and assists in your healthcare, primarily treatment services, as needed. So they are the group that assisted out in Swinomish to create that that intensive outpatient structure that was built from the ground up, and where they're servicing both tribal members and non-tribal members there. So we're having a preliminary conversation with them. We do know it's going to take some work to get the intensive outpatient facility up and running at the Flathead Lake Inn. We heard Councilwoman Langford talk about the amount of time that Dr. Fox is being tasked on lots of projects, and we want to make sure that the intensive outpatient is moving. And thus, I think it makes sense to bring in a consultant to help drive that forward under Dr. Fox's direction. So, because we've seen them do it for other tribes, they're our initial consulting group we'll be having conversations with.
Anything else? Thank you, Dr. Fox. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we go back into executive?
Yeah, we will go back into executive. Out of regular, back into executive.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we encourage Tobias and give him 10 days to come in and do what he needs to do with the property, or we're going to destroy it. I don't know if destroy is the word. Condemn the property.
I think given what Mike just told us, we need to actually investigate how we put that in place.
Well, I thought he said to do it in,
and take those steps.
do it in the same light, each of them together. But there's also a legal review, I'm sure, along with the superintendent has to probably sign off on it. There's a process, right, Mark? And then I want to direct lands also in a second motion to draft up condemnation rule
That I believe is
or
the
ordinance
first
change.
order of business.
So that's where Mike comes in, is that we're gonna be changing that. We'd have to be redo an amendment to our ordinance at 45C. But it would also be coming into the Montana, I mean, not Montana, but the tribal code law.
Secondary.
And
I wanna
then
do this first one
with the
first.
resolution, we'll have to get it drafted up, go through legal review, and then be present to council to get it approved and signed off on. And then that resolution will stand.
So to proceed with basic, whatever we can do under the Constitution toward condemnation.
Or sale. He has a
And-
right to come in and still sell it, but
Correct.
he's got limited time. That's what I would like to put in a motion, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, definitely will pursue the becoming aware how under the Constitution we can proceed with condemnation and do that within the next 2 weeks, huh? 2 weeks? That's okay as your motion?
Go ahead and restate it just so I know exactly what you're.
Proceed to discover how we put in place under our Constitution the rule of condemnation within the next 2 weeks and to proceed with this house.
Isn't a change to the ordinance, not the Constitution?
The resolution we have to use the Constitution.
Yeah,
Condemnation terms into the resolution, which is an amendment to the ordinance.
because it's in the Constitution already, the
Right.
condemnation.
So all that is just that resolution gives us the authority then utilizing our ordinance.
And got a second? Second by Tall. All in favor? Unanimous. We will proceed with discovering what we can do under our Constitution, what we will do. Danielle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mark, I'm gonna use this as a challenge to clean up some of these other areas. If this was that easy, and I know there's been people in complaining about a lot of different properties throughout the reservation. I'm glad we're able to do this for this family today and for the neighborhood and the community of Polson. But this needs to start happening throughout and not picking and choosing because, when somebody comes in, we know the bad places. We know the areas that are like this. So I'm gonna challenge the teams to be proactive instead of reactive. Thank you.
No, agreed. And I think this is the first step. We can get this condemnation resolution done and drafted up, and then we could get it moving forward each case until it is changed in law. Then we would be able to do that. But as of right now, when it comes to these individual trusts, we can't. So this is the first step. And then when it comes to the home sites, our team has stepped up this year and have been dropping off our trailer to have them clean up their own mess, and we haul it for them at no cost. So we're trying. It's going to be slow. We need more staff and more equipment.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, James.
So when my uncle's cattle get out of his fence and in my yard, then his individual trust we can use this to go after. Just kidding.
We can actually go after them underneath the trespass.
Just kidding.
I think it's under that, prime rib
Yeah.
resolution.
Go ahead, Craig.
Just to be sure on timeline, so we're looking at roughly a 2-week turnaround, and we should have a better answer for the folks who are here.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
That'd be great. And then in the meantime, we'll see if we can get Tobias. We won't necessarily with law enforcement, but
Yeah.
Mr. Berlin and others,
Yeah,
Tracy
yeah.
and have a good.
I would appreciate a notice to Tobias that something's
I
happening.
know DHRD's worked with him. I know Mark's worked with him. I know we've worked with him. Every department has tried to get him to move forward, and just nothing works.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you all for helping to work on finding a solution for this, but unfortunately, it really underscores the need for more mental health resources in our state. And I think this is happening all over the state. And, in visiting with law enforcement, I know that a lot of people who are in jail are there simply because they're mentally ill and there's no place else to put them. So I will definitely keep this in mind as we talk to the state, any chance that I get of advocating for more money for mental health resources in the state of Montana, because it doesn't just affect the jails, it affects our neighborhoods and people who are too mentally unwell to care for themselves. It has huge effects for our whole community. So thank you.
Anything else?
So,
Go ahead.
excuse me, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the council for that really great discussion and opportunity to work on that issue. I really appreciate that. It's obvious that, we both have an interest in seeing our entire community prosper and to wherever we can be helpful on any of those conversations, we certainly want to do that. I often find myself toe to toe with legislators, either in Helena or if I can yank them off the interstate as they pass through town. So whether it's mental health or other issues, I think the more we understand about the challenges we each face, I'm glad to be as helpful as possible. So please, wherever we can do that, just certainly keep us in the loop and clue us in. And as I tell my wife all the time, just clue the dummy and I'll do what I need to do. So, willing to be helpful with that. And thank you again to the neighbors and the respective enforcement departments and DED, RHD, and everybody, because I do know that we've all been working on this quite some time. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just two other little issues. But if there's folks that need to leave or whatever, I want to make sure that they know they can.
Well, we appreciate it, and just as much. Thank you all. Three? I got one in Hot Springs,
You got about.
Yeah, I got about, no, there's two for sure. Two for sure, but one. Got one that's just basically vacant, but the other one is just the same as this one.
So, Mr. Chair, I want to be economical with your time. I certainly understand not wanting to drag out council meetings, so we can agree on that. I wanted to bring Ms. Means up here for just a second, kind of give you just a quick heads up that I know that there has been an agreement in place between the City of Polson and the CSKT for years with regard to Salish Point area, and just in the past 3 or 4 months, we've undergone some staff transitions. We created some new positions at the City of Polson by devolving some old positions. And one of those is we have a new recreation coordinator position. Alyssa Reed is here in the audience with us today. And one of the first things that I tasked Alyssa with when she came into this new position was I really wanted to reinvigorate our partnership with regard to the Salish Point area. And so I think we've held one joint meeting to this point. And there's a lot more to be planned and done going forward, working with Whisper and Todd and Chauncey, and had a good initial discussion there. I think we've already identified several places that there's opportunities we can work together, where we have some tax increment dollars that potentially could be used and some other grant funds that we could probably go together with. So just really wanted to put that back on the radar. Don't need any action today. Certainly, if there's any comments or suggestions, we'll be glad to take them. I know, Whisper, if you want to, is there anything you would add to that from based on what we've done so far?
Thank you, Ed, and thank you for reaching out, and thank you for Alyssa Reed for also being part of that. I believe that Todd got a hold of Tom and dug into a little more history on the location. I know there are some concerns in the area, and then maybe also connection to the parking and the regatta grounds and the status of that, which I don't have. And so just working on redoing our cooperative agreement so we can refresh that from 2006 so that we kind of get an updated one that includes maintenance agreements and things like that.
Right. No, thank you for that, Whisper, and thank you for reminding me of that. So there is this historical agreement that has been in place. And I think one of the first things when we sat down the other day was just sort of take a cursory look at that and said, we can do better than this in 2024 with how much has changed in the ensuing 18 years. So we're going to both do a sort of a re-edit on that and then ask your legal department to take a look at that and make some comments as well. And I suspect probably, since you guys were so good at putting a timeline on something, I think within the first quarter of next year. All right. So that's a city manager hedging his bets, right? I'm not giving you a specific date, but within the next quarter, we'll try and get something back to you that you can look at and make sure that it's satisfactory for the type of work we want to do going forward. And try and cross all the legal hurdles before we bring that one to you.
Thank you for that, Ed and Whisper. Do we have any comments? Thoughts? Go ahead, Tom, and then Jennifer.
Yeah, I'll probably lead to Jennifer's question. Yeah, the Salish Point Committee was great to form up and take care of that wasteland we called Salish Point back in the day, industrial park. Actually, I would probably call it a Superfund site, but we never got it to that point. because of the mill that was there and the treated materials that are buried underneath that asphalt parking lot where the boat ramp is. But we had a list of projects that were part of that Salish Point plan, and the two parking lobes, the east side and the west side, we did complete the east side parking lobe, but the west side parking lobe was conditioned about moving the USGS gauging station and building a new facility there to house that gauging station, which is a critical component of our water resource management in the Columbia Basin for the elevation and how we run the SKQ Dam and the pool elevation of Flathead Lake. But the other part of that was interpreting the weather and the seismology. So there's actually earthquake sensing stuff in the facility we built at that west lobe, and part of the goals of building that facility and the way we built it was actually to have it opened up to science classes in Polson, so they actually could look and see how the gauge station works, how's the weather station that's inside works, how the seismo equipment works, and all that is part of that building, that little shelter that's got a picnic table in it. But also, we wanted to finish that parking lobe, the west side. And so one of the commitments that we had, Ed, was that they were going to follow up. Not only did we use increment tax dollars to help facilitate the construction of that west pier, but we were supposed to finish off that parking lobe with asphalt and a sidewalk cap and retaining or a handrail on that top of that seawall. That was an important part. And then of course the connecting trail that we did over to Riverside Park was also kind of a add-on project. But the big project that was to help facilitate parking and to facilitate the movement of traffic utilizing Salish Point launching boats, et cetera, was to build a connecting road from Kootenai Avenue straight down to that east parking lobe. And that road would also have parallel parking on it. So that way people would come in off the stoplight by City Hall, come in and hit Kootenai Avenue and circle around, and you basically wouldn't have other traffic on Quatucknuck Road. You'd just kind of use a circle kind of scenario when we'd add more parking availability. And then lower Kootenai Avenue, so the residents that live up there don't have their views blocked by people parking on Kootenai Avenue like they do today. And so it was kind of a two-step road improvement project. That was also on our to-do list for that Salish Point Park. And then we determined that the maintenance was best, that the tribes would maintain all water-related stuff as far as just the Salish Point, the two docks, and the beach, and particularly the beach. And then the landscape part, the terrestrial landscape, would be a maintenance thing for the city to do, because you have parks you're mowing and toilets you're already maintaining, so, and parking you're dealing with. So that's kind of the way we split the baby on that particular thing. But that's where we left it. And so I know that we have some community improvement dollars that Jennifer has. So she's been investigating some improvements, and I'll just turn that over to her.
Yeah, so next week I have an appointment with, and I'll send you an email if both of you would like to come to that. So there's an organization that puts parks in communities, and they're doing a really wonderful park in Ronan. And the park is incorporating the Salish names for animals and other, I know that at least for animals, and it's a really wonderful project. And they would like to do one in Polson as well. And they're custom designed playgrounds. And they showed me the mock-up for the Ronan one. There's like canoes. Have you seen this? So there's like canoes and bears that are playground equipment. It's so amazing. And they would like to work with us to do one in Polson at Salish Point. And I mentioned the idea to Brian at SNK Gaming. So it would be near the Quatucknuck. And it would be, so eventually they want to be not a casino, just a hotel and a family destination. So it'd be beneficial to them too to have this custom designed park next to there. And if what Tom is describing, if that road is somehow moved and there's less traffic where it is now and it's diverted, that would even make it better for playground equipment to go there. And they have money they can put in the project as well.
This has been a great trip to
Yeah.
Pablo today. So I got educated and then got invited to another meeting, and certainly I'll be glad, or either Alyssa I want to be glad to be there. And thank you, Tom, for that education, because I just learned 100% more than I knew about this topic before I came today. So that's all good. And we will make sure if there were commitments made that we get those honored. And, that strip of Kootenai Avenue that's currently not paved and sort of used for a parking area, and if there is a practical way to make that connection and make that road happen, that would be something I think would be well worth investigating. So, yeah, I noticed that Whisper is taking furious notes over there. The whole time I was thinking, okay, I got to go back and watch this now, because now I got to take notes. So, but yes, thank you, and we'll be glad to be there as well.
Well, I think I need to add on to Jennifer's. I think what Jennifer's looking at is the grass lawn area next to the SST toilets, next to the boat ramp in that vicinity. So we do have a timeline that we need to make sure it's okay to plant something there, like as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And if even if you could say, hey, it's okay, put something there today, that would actually be really good. So,
well, I'm not going to say that today, although I will say I have council members that try and get me to do that too. But I will say that in a very short period of time, give me an opportunity to go back and just understand it really well. And I don't think it has to be a long process.
yeah, we just have a commitment for obligating the funds.
Yep.
Like in a week.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure, I think Alyssa's going thumbs up back
Yeah,
there.
yeah. I'm sure she is.
I know the chief of police, he's part of our push play committee, so
Yeah.
he's on board.
We'll make that happen in a short period of time. We don't want to, once money finds its way to Polson or Lake County or Pablo or the CSKT, I don't want it to find its way back. So whatever we can do to make sure it stays, let's make that happen.
Go ahead, Whisper, and then we'll come back to Tom.
Okay, just really quick, I guess I was thinking scale, like, is this a long drawn out thing or is it a big block? Just because there's a lot of use down there. And the other thing that really plays in my mind is maintenance. I know that Todd and Joe Espinoza went to the skate park in Ronan last week and removed graffiti that was profane off of the skate park. And I'm not even sure who's in charge of maintenance of that facility. So I think that's something that we got to think about is like, there's a lot of teenagers hang out at Salish Point, and breaking and graffiti and just like thinking about what can happen to that there and what it's going to look like is something that plays in my mind. Or if Sacagawea Park, where you just put the Flathead Lake Monster, is that the right place for it? Because that's developing into more of a family park and visible by the businesses and people, where Salish Point is pretty hidden. And I think that's why some things happen there.
Go ahead, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Here's what I would say, Whisper. Don't ever put a tot playground next to a seawall. Put your top playground where you have a gravel beach, where you have a gradient that kids can't fall off and be over their head. So I would never put a tot lot playground at Sacagawea Park, because that's an entire seawall that I think is 3 feet deep. You can get away with it at Riverside because it's a smaller seawall that it's been added through time. I just wanted to go back to the long-term plans. The goal was to actually remove all boat ramp launching at Salish Point in the prime summer months and move it to the regatta grounds. And if the county is successful with their design or trying to implement. I don't know where Bill Barron has with that. It's even happening still. Then that really improves Salish Point Park as a pedestrian park and makes a lot more ground available for vehicle parking and gets the boats and boat trailers out of downtown and into an appropriate location. That's always been a big conflict. We've always been water rich and land poor with Polson in downtown, and so that limiting factor would be great. So I don't know where you're at with that, Ed, but I certainly think that the more we can encourage the county to actually develop that site that was purchased for boat ramping and boating from donations to open that up to public boating is a very appropriate location for that. And it would behoove the parks in Polson, no matter however co-management or individual management is, it would really make a difference. So really encourage your strong support for that.
Yeah, and I know the county just recently got denied for a grant that they had applied for to make a lot of those types of improvements. We supported that, and we've committed to the county that we'll continue to support whatever additional efforts they're going to try and make another run at that. I haven't heard when they're going to try and make another run at that, but absolutely. I mean, that's why we supported them the first time for a lot of the same reasons you just mentioned. And certainly it does solve that issue and gives a better coordination to how the boats get in to begin with. So I would be right there with you. Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Well, I look forward to seeing the partnership MOU.
Yeah, and exactly. And so I guess in that tone, I'm going to say one more thing before I get out of here and let you get back to your otherwise busy day. But one of the things that I know Councilmember Finley and I have talked about, and just wanted to put it on your plate today when you're ready. But at the city, we have a monthly meeting with county government. Takes about an hour and a half. Whoops, sorry. That's my volunteer firefighter role, so I'm good for right now. We have a monthly meeting with county government, about an hour and a half, and I just wanted to put that out that if there's anything like that the tribal council would ever be interested in doing, whether it was on a couple times a year or a quarterly basis, we would certainly, as a team at the city of Polson, be willing to do that. We do it, city council and I kind of do that back and forth. Means that they're outnumbered, not me. But then we also invite our leadership teams to join the discussion, and a lot of times they know more about what's going on than we do, so it just kind of informs everybody. So I'm just putting that out there. If that's something that you would want to at some point make a regular item on an agenda, the third Tuesday of the third, 6th, 9th, whatever, however you might want to set it up, we would certainly be glad to participate in that. I know we've got several of the city leadership team here today. And just wanted to let you guys know and that if that's something you're interested in, certainly just reach out and we'd be glad to participate in that. Other than that, I just want to say again, thank you for letting me consume so much of your day. It's been incredibly productive. Anytime that I get this much done in an hour of a council meeting, I'm a happy guy. So thank you very much. And please, if there's ever anything that we can do to work together in the future, don't hesitate. That's who we are. We want to continue that. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Ed, and I do believe we probably will look at finding a time to meet more regularly. Jennifer and James, you were wanting to say something. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you for coming in, Ed, and thank you for, coming in also because I don't think you realize how far this goes when you come to the tribal council and you want to work with us, because we have the same interest of making this a good place and taking care of it. And we have a lot of common ground. And we want a lot of the same things. And so it really means a lot to us when you take the time and energy to come here and meet with us. It means a lot. So thank you.
Well, thank you and thank the tribal council. We really appreciate our relationship. So thank you very much.
Thank you all, and have a good rest of your day. Anything else? Anybody? Jennifer,
Can we go back into executive?
we will go out of regular into executive. Executive into regular. Motion by Tom, second by Jimmy. All in favor? Carol's in the room this time. Unanimous.
I have Patricia Crashane going to be on. She has her couple little quick things too.
Thank
But
you.
I'll get you guys out of here before 3. Thank you.
What's the
That one,
Patricia's issue?
that one, can we go back into executive and I can put the pages up for you guys to look at really quick?
Out of regular into and we're looking for action to publish the toolkit. Motion by Martin, second by Tom. All in favor? Unanimous. And we're looking to close the HRD except for essential services on the 19th. Is that what I saw?
Yes, that's correct.
For cross training. 7 to 3. Motion by Bing. Second by Danielle. All in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.
You got one more? Is that what you're saying? Shay hoy.
Unless you guys want one more. It would be Greg Spar coming in for the gift card policy.
We get out.
For which policy?
Gift card, right.
That won't take any time anyway, so we can do it later. No. No, we're done.